Hello, Piney Ridge Church. Today is day 2 of Holy Week, Tuesday. Nathan talked yesterday on Monday that on Monday of Jesus' Passion Week, he entered into Jerusalem and entered into the temple and cleared it of all the people that were buying and selling. And he did this because he had a zeal for God to be worshiped in spirit and in truth. He wanted God to be worshiped truly and not have just some kind of false religion, false teaching, false belief dominating the temple. On Monday, on their way into Jerusalem, Jesus and the disciples passed by a fig tree, and Jesus was hungry, and he saw that the fig tree had leafed out, and so he went over to the fig tree to see if he could get something to eat, and when he saw there was no fruit on it, he cursed it. And this, of course, was a living, or we might say a dying parable of the Jewish religious system, that it looked really good, but it wasn't bearing fruit. And so Jesus cursed it, as he cursed the Israelites' religion. On the next day, on Tuesday, as they were headed back into Jerusalem, when they passed by that fig tree, the disciples saw that the fig tree had withered. They actually seemed kind of surprised by that, which is kind of funny to me because they've seen Jesus raise someone from the dead. They've seen him heal blind people and lame people. They've seen him feed 5,000 people with 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. And they seem surprised that the tree that Jesus cursed on Monday is withered. And so Jesus takes this opportunity to teach them a little bit about faith. And he says, the first thing he says to them is, have faith in God. And I think that's important for us to remember that our God, the God that we have faith in, is an almighty, omnipotent God, the God that is the sovereign ruler of the universe, the God that spoke it into existence, the God that keeps it moving and keeps it running every nanosecond of every day. This is the God to whom we pray. We're not praying to some God that we hope hears and we hope has the power to answer. We're praying to someone who has the power to answer our prayers. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to begin to pray big prayers to a God who is able to do far more abundantly than all we could think or ask. Pray big prayers. Pray for the salvation of hundreds, thousands in Wentzville. Pray for the salvation of the nation of Indonesia. Pray for this coronavirus to be eradicated. Pray big prayers. Pray for the salvation of your children and your grandchildren and your neighbors and your spouses. Pray big prayers, Piney Ridge Church. Have faith in God. Jesus goes on then to say, truly I say to you, whoever says to this mountain, and they were standing on the Mount of Olives, be thrown into the sea, and does not doubt in his heart, but believes that what he says will come to pass, it will be done for him. Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you've received it, and it will be yours. Now, the kind of faith that Jesus is talking about here is not a kind of faith that we have to try to conjure up. And I've been in this situation a lot in my life, especially in my early days as a Christian. I would pray maybe for someone to be healed. When my dad got sick, I prayed for him to be healed, but I had to try to conjure up the faith because I knew the Bible said if you have faith and don't doubt, that whatever you pray for will be given to you. And so I thought, well, then I've got to try to build up enough faith. If I just pray hard enough, if I just believe hard enough, that it will come to pass. But this is not the kind of faith that God is talking about here. The kind of faith that Jesus is talking about in this passage is a faith of someone who knows God. The faith of someone who genuinely trusts, understands God's power, understands God's will, and then prays according to that will. Those are the people who pray and know that God will do what he says he will do. I really like the sign on the church on Westmeyer. I'm usually not a fan of these goofy church signs, but this one's been up for about 4 months, so I'm sure many of you have seen it, that says, is prayer your spare tire or your steering wheel? Piney Ridge Church, I really encourage you to make prayer your steering wheel. Pray without ceasing. Pray every day. Pray every hour of every day about every decision you make. Pray and ask God to lead you. Pray and ask God to sanctify you. Pray and ask God to give you opportunities to share the gospel. Pray and ask God to help you to curb your temper, or to grow in patience, or grow in faith. But pray, pray, pray. Pray about everything and believe that God will accomplish His purpose in your life. D.A. Carson said about the parallel passage in Matthew, he said that the faith that is being talked about here in this passage is related to genuine trust in God and obedience to and discernment of His will. And so the kind of faith that Jesus is talking about is a faith that grows within us, not something we try to conjure up ourselves, but something that grows within us as we grow to know God more, as we grow in obedience to Him, as we learn to discern in various situations what His will is. Then when we ask in faith, we'll be able to do so and not doubt. And then we'll know that what we pray for will be given to us. Carson ends up by saying, though exercised by the believer, such faith rests on the will of God, who is the one who acts. And so, going back to what Jesus said first, have faith in God. Don't have faith in your own faith. Don't have faith in, some technique or method of praying. Don't even have faith in your own prayers. Have faith in the God to whom you pray. Piney Ridge Church, be a church that prays. I hope you guys have a great day and a great week.